A group of Khasi men attacked Vicky Dey. He was stabbed to death brutally and fatally with a screwdriver. The issue was a parking spot, but the overriding issue is that he was a Hindu Bengali and is unwelcomed by Khasi Students' Union and is called a foreigner in his own country. The Khasi Student Union has been exercising its strength across the state. Last year in November, they forcefully shut down Ramakrishna Mission in Shillong. Why? Because it coincided with a tribal festival of Khasi community. They also warned every institution in the state which failed to respect the festivities of the indigenous people. Meghalaya is home to many Hindus. They have been subject to discrimination and violence since 1978. The Hindus, especially Bengalis, live in a constant state of terror. They are often treated as Bangladeshis or outsiders. There is a widespread intolerance against them. The population in Meghalaya is predominantly tribal. The lives of the non-tribals have been made difficult in many ways. If you have to set up a business or have to buy a property, you have to have a tribal backing you. This is one way of weeding out control of non-tribals. In this video, we see that the police are removing the stalls of all non-tribals. For a non-Khasi, even to get a license renewed is a difficult task. It takes bribing your way through. Many Hindu Bengalis compare their lives to that of Kashmiri Pandits, who were terrorized in 1991 and left Kashmir thereafter. Many Bengalis have run away to establish their businesses someplace else. The Sikhs living in Meghalaya were also pushed in 2018, but they fought back. India prides itself as a multicultural, multi-religious country. The diversity is challenged constantly. Meghalaya's tribal community's pushback against the Bengali Hindus is a test for India. The amalgamation of communities is a global movement, and each maintaining their own identity in spite of coexistence is going to be the key. Shivani Singh, Democracy News Live, New Delhi.
Welcome to It Matters. We've been discussing the issue. Now, this is the second time we're discussing it. Killing of the non-tribals by the tribals in Meghalaya. And that's become a big issue. There have been a lot of things that have happened around this issue. There have been multiple instances all the way from 1979. If you look at some of the imagery that is coming out, gruesome murders of people, drivers, shopkeepers, just young students playing on basketball fields. And the idea is that the non-tribals will take over the land. They're far more savvier at doing business, and they will take away their business and the money, and they need to be out of the zone. But that's not what India is made of. That's not how India is based. India is a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious community where people live together. People have rights in areas so that they're protected. And those rights have been maintained, and the government tries to maintain it over a period of time. But when it comes down to a genocide being carried out to cleanse a community, then it becomes a challenge, because India doesn't stay India anymore. And that is the reason many of the activists have raised their voice. I'm going to be joined today by Patricia Mukhim. Now, there was an FIR filed against Patricia Mukhim. She's an activist. She believes in the multi-dimensional part of India, the multicultural part of India, the multi-ethnic part of India. And an FIR was filed against her, and she has gone now to the Supreme Court to quash this FIR. She's filed an SLP to make sure this is resolved. Let's bring Patricia on here. Patricia, when you raised your voice after a few boys who were non-tribals were beaten up black and blue, and you said that this was a challenge, this is not how the idea of India or the idea of Meghalaya is based, they filed an FIR saying you were causing rift between communities. How fair was it for the court and the police to entertain an FIR even like this?
See, my lawyer says from the very beginning that there is no case here, because I didn't write an article. It was a Facebook post I had put up on July 4th saying that these repeated attacks on non-tribals, and in this case, young students who've perhaps come back from there, wherever they were studying, and they must have been feeling claustrophobic, so they went out to play basketball. Maybe the locality didn't believe in people coming in because of the coronavirus or whatever, but whatever it is, nobody has a right to attack anyone, especially with rods. and the basketball court was locked from the outside, which means that these guys who were beating them up were fully prepared. It was a premeditated kind of action. So I said, we have been seeing this happening since 1979 and nobody is ever arrested. Why are the perpetrators never arrested? That was my question to the government, and I tagged the chief minister as well. Then I also questioned the DG police, saying, why is it that people get away by being called some miscreants, some miscreants? So people are never arrested, leave alone convicted. That was the burden of my Facebook post. So I said, the locality institution of that particular area should be knowing the unruly elements there, and they should be the first ones to get these guys arrested instead of shielding them, instead of defending them. That was all I said. And the FIR says that I have been trying to cause communal tension and defaming the Dorbar Shnong. It's called the Dorbar Shnong, that traditional institution. So that was how it is. And then my lawyer immediately filed a petition saying that there is no case and this should be quashed, but the court refused to quash that FIR.
Asked for the FIR to be quashed. But now, when you've gone back to the Supreme Court now, and you've asked for the Supreme Court to quash it, what has been the reaction there so far?
There's been no reaction. My lawyer, Brinda Grover, has taken up this case pro bono because she's a friend and also she's a human rights activist above all. So she feels that there is injustice here. So she's taken it up on my behalf.
So what people like Patricia and other activists are hoping that the government is going to understand. The government in Meghalaya cannot act under the pressure of local politicians or even sometimes local communities. They may be powerful. The concept
groups, there are a lot of pressure groups, and they come in different shapes and sizes and forms, and the governments have repeatedly been put under the mat, put kind of held captive by these pressure groups, and has never been able to stand up for itself. So this is the question. You have been mandated to protect our lives and liberties. You're supposed to be the protector of human rights, but in most cases that's not happening. Time and again there are these
these pressure groups sometimes will give so much pressure because they obviously hold enough sway in the vote bank. And sometimes vote bank politics overtakes the idea of what human rights are. And that is what, as a government, you should be able to stand up to. You are holding a state of the Union of India. And if you, as the leader of the state, are not able to stand up against pressure groups, you're not a good leader enough. And I think that's what's happening in Meghalaya. It's been seen in many other states as well. We've seen this across. I know in Goa, for example, Patricia, the state government has not been able to throw out the pressure of the Taxi Drivers Association and they would not allow other tab related cab companies, because the pressure group of the taxi drivers says we will vote you out if you let other more cheaper ways of communication come into the state. So these pressure groups sometimes have a large sway, but you as a state leader, you as the bureaucracy, which means the police and the executive appointed by the government of India, should be able to hold off on all of that. And you should be able to, take action when it needs to be. And that's where the challenge is. Patricia, thank you for joining us for the show. So really, to understand the larger issue, I'm going to go and interview Vicky Dey. Vicky Dey is an activist. He's possibly the first one who raised his voice in that state. He's gone out and spoken openly. Obviously, there's a risk to his life. The government of Meghalaya, if something happens to Vicky Dey, you're responsible as a chief minister and you're responsible as a DGP if something happens to Vicky Dey. So he's raising his voice to make sure that he's heard. But there's an FIR filed against Vicky as well. For what reason? Because he's raising his voice, that non-tribals are being targeted. So Vicky, tell me, How bad is the state, and how risky is it for you to even raise a voice against this genocide, a genocide in the making of the non-tribals in Meghalaya?
Well, to begin with, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you for providing this platform where I can put up my words. No one is listening. Actually, it was till date, as I have already mentioned it in my previous video. Not even a single culprit is in jail for raping, for murdering, for looting people, for assaulting them with rods. They keep on doing it. It's worse than Kashmir. Kashmir, if compared to Meghalaya, is actually nothing. The only problem is the government, either in the center or in the state, they don't care for human life, which is the life of a non-tribal Hindu minority. Now, getting me, yes, I have a voice because it was pretty much needed. People are dying. People are being forced to flee the state, even though it is India, treated as a second-class citizen. Now, surprisingly, the government, instead of supporting me, because it was their job, the job of the respected IPS, DIG, the bureaucrats, it was their job to provide security and a good life, a safe life to the people there. Instead, they are doing is they are trying to get me arrested for raising my voice on such issues, which includes brutal murders of innocent people. Recently, not even a month back, an innocent driver, red owner, was murdered so brutally, because he was a Bengali. And till date, there is one person who is arrested. My question again to the government is, when one of the tribal person, while doing a rally against CAA, they attacked the houses of Hindus there, and they tried to burn the houses according to the police press release. So when they were trying to burn houses of Hindus there, the Hindus retaliated, and yes, it's pretty bad that one of them lost their life. But the government of Meghalaya, within a fraction of few days, arrested more than 50 people, 60 people, and till date you have almost 40 people in jail who all are Hindus. Secondly, you have more than 5 people who are juveniles, less than 18 years. Most of them were jails, not even in any juvenile unit. So the law in Meghalaya is not according to the constitution. It's like their own law, which is unconstitutional, and the government is just working hands in gloves with the overground terrorists, as I say every time, the Khasi Student Union, or multi there, which is not, which they call themselves students union. But the who died recently from their organization, he was a driver by profession and 3 kids. A married guy. Now, can you answer this? How come he's a student? Secondly, when I raised my voice, because I want to save my people, since 1979, the government is not saving them, the police is not saving them, the central government is not saving them. So I couldn't take it anymore. They've been hitting young Hindu boys with rods by making mobs. Even in the NIT, such a respected educational institution, hundreds of outsiders, hundreds of students from different states who are from Hindu community, they were with rods, they were hospitalized, and they left NIT in military vehicles. How many arrests done? Zero. No one is in jail. They want to detain me. The government of Meghalaya has sent out a lookout notice. Why? Because I don't have any other medium to express and to let people know how Meghalaya is worse than Kashmir. People are getting killed. They don't give jobs. Even if you do PT businesses, they take that. And now they are not even giving licenses for running the business. The village headman there, what is actually illegal according to government. They are not issuing residential certificate. They are not allowing people to get NOC to run their business. So it's a silent ethnic cleansing. So instead of killing people now, they have decided we'll starve them, and ultimately they'll leave. And because I raised voice in this, because this is unconstitutional and illegal, the government of Meghalaya has sent lookout notice as if I'm a criminal. They are trying to frame me in some false cases and wrong cases. so that they can detain me and later get me killed. So if I, for any reason, die, then I hold responsible the government of Meghalaya.
Vicky, let me now kind of
Yeah.
structure your what you've made, what the point you made out. So what Vicky is saying is, first of all, the government of India is not in control, even though the appointed bureaucrats and police officers, all part of the IPS and the IS services, are in place, but the government of India is not in control because the government of Meghalaya is under a pressure group of the Khasis. Primarily, Meghalaya is majorly made up of the Khasi community. But if they want to ethnically cleanse the other communities out, then the idea of India is what's going to get threatened over a period of time. What was seen in Kashmir a few years ago, where the Hindu community was cleansed, now Meghalaya is another example of where it's happening. It's not as if this is going to stop. There will be other states where this will begin happening in the Northeast to start with, but then you will begin seeing the same reaction in other places. For example, people living in Maharashtra are going to come out and say, only the Marathis need to be here. People living in Orissa are going to say that. People living in Punjab are going to say that. And then that's the whole idea of India going haywire. And if the government of India does not understand this now, it will repent later. And I think that's what people like Vicky are saying. Vicky, first of all, have you also approached the Supreme Court to quash the FIR against you?
As of now, no, I have not. I have not done anything in regards to this. I have spoken to our lawyers. The lawyer is ready, but I'm taking time on this because the judiciary system of Meghalaya is going for a toss, like, because what happened to our respected Miss Patricia Mukhim, we all know, for no reason. Facebook is there to express ourselves. That's a freedom of expression. She was not allowed to speak on social media. The judiciary system there came against her and they denied to quash the FIR. But the same judiciary system never directed the state government to stop the brutal killings of Hindus, the extortion of Hindus, the regular assault of Hindus. The same judiciary system never raised voice to stop the criminals, but the people who are trying to stop these crimes, even the judiciary system is going against them. So that's the reason I'm taking my time. Yes, I have to do it through Supreme Court. I have my lawyers already informed about it, but I just want to see what the Meghalaya judiciary system does about it, because I'm still waiting to see if they work according to the constitution, according to the law. I'm talking about the judiciary, because what they
Sure.
did to Patricia Mukhim
Understood.
recently,
Understood, Vicky.
is
Vicky,
totally
understood.
unconstitutional.
So what's happening there on the ground? It's a case where the other communities in the state are asking for a state of emergency. If the state government is not able to, hold the constitution in high esteem and protect other citizens in the state, when Vicky talked about extortion, if you set up a business in Meghalaya, you need to give money to these small terrorist outfits that come and demand the money. If you do not give them that money, they will not let you operate. For example, the village level head of the village is not going to give you a license to run your business. And that is what extortion Wiki is talking about. And I think that's the kind of action we need to take. The killings have certainly put a lot of people on the back foot. People are aghast at the idea that a bunch of people who will come together, just like a small terrorist group, and start killing other people because they think these are outsiders. The concept of outsiders is not new. Today, who joins us is Rakhi Mitra. She is the BJP Mahila Morcha State Secretary in West Bengal. And we're specifically going to ask her, Rakhi, when you see those banners by the Kashi Student Federation, Kashi Student Union to be precise, saying Bengalis are Bangladeshis, what crosses your mind?
Actually, the first day that I saw this, that was in October this year. Then I started studying, and then I found that this is something which is not new. Refugees are foreign nationals. This was a slogan that started immediately when after Meghalaya was formed. And I cannot really imagine how a fringe group, a students' union consisting of students who are 40 years of age, how can they decide on citizenship issues? Bengalis, as we all know, I'm not talking about only Bengalis, it's the non tribals. They have been in Meghalaya since long. How can a students' union come and decide on their citizenship issue? Who has given them this right? Who has? Because right now they have started this ILP too. We all know the history. That ILP was started by Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation, according to that Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act of 1873. So suddenly, that was started because the Britishers had wanted to isolate the tribals. And right now, when the Khasi Students' Union is demanding it, that they will not allow any Indian citizen to enter Meghalaya, they have to inform them about where they are going, where they are not going. I think they are forgetting that Meghalaya generates only 20% of its own revenue. The rest of the money comes from the central government, which is the taxpayers' money. So you are living on our money. Your kitchen fire is burning because of us, and yet you are saying you will not let us enter. And fine, I am always there when it comes to illegal immigrants. You always have the right to deport them. But how are you calling the Bengali Hindus Bangladeshis? I did not really get that.
Oh,
And when
no,
I
so I
see,
think
when I
that's
started,
a good point.
yeah,
Make a good point there, and I think as much as cross funding may happen, and I understand that sometimes a state may not be able to generate most of its own revenue, and that's when a nation comes into play. We're one people. At the end of the day, we're going to share our resources. We're going to make sure that everybody gets what they deserve to be an Indian national or whichever other nationality may be in play. The country delivers together. They treat everybody like a family. But when in India you see this kind of an attitude by small groupings of people, when they start calling the other an outsider, but they expect to be treated with equal respect when they go somewhere else, and they say, "Well, I'm an Indian," but when they go back to their own little, small location, they say everybody else is an outsider and they should return. There is a little bit of racism and hypocrisy around this idea.
no,
What
when they
will
go
it
back,
take?
they say we are Khasi by blood, Indian by accident. It is
And they
that
may say
what they
that,
say.
but that's okay. They are not going to determine who is who. The nation's constitution and its landscape is determined by the constitution and by the nation itself. Now, why is the government not able to take action? The IPS officers, the IS officers, the politicians who are in power. How do they come under pressure and not able to take action? For example, Patricia Mukhim, she has an
Yeah.
FIR against her, was even rejected in
Yes.
the state, high court. She filed a 711 to quash the FIR, where it wasn't. She's had to go to the Supreme Court to do this. Where are the bureaucrats and the IPS officers here?
I really do not know because every time when I read the history of Shillong, the killings, I always find that some people are caught and yet they are allowed to go free by saying these are some miscreants, unidentified miscreants. How come these people have never been caught? You tell me that. Last 40 years they have committed so much of crime, so much of displacement of Bengalis, yet nobody has been caught. That means what? The government is a part and parcel of this? I really do not understand that. How is it that the government is not catching anybody? They are just let to go away by saying that these are some miscreants, people who are killing, who are making Bengalis have been displaced twice. You make them second time you have made them refugees, and you say these are some miscreants who have done it. Do you forget how Gauri Dev was raped and killed? I haven't forgotten that. I haven't forgotten any of the killings,
So
and yet
last
nobody
year,
has been caught.
Rakhi, last year, what happened was a lot of Sikhs were targeted there as well.
Yes.
But when the Sikhs were targeted, they got together. They turned around and told the Khasis that, I'm sorry, this is not going to happen. And they reached out to the center. The center sent in emissaries to negotiate it. The Khasi Student Union, as they call themselves the student union, I'm not so sure it is because there are lots of 40 and 50-year-olds in that union. They then turned around and said, okay, we will not target the Sikhs, even though they're outsiders, but we are not going to target them. But then they continue targeting the Bengalis. And many of the Bengalis have sold their businesses, have gone away. There seems to be a little bit of a challenge of the center as well. The center doesn't seem to understand that the Bengalis need to be protected in the same way the Sikhs had to be protected. Now, why this difference? Where is this challenge coming from? And do you see there is a little bit of a split personality in the government's behavior?
My personal viewpoint, it's because the Sikhs are united. They went to the central government, they sent a delegation there. But Bengalis, unfortunately, I think they are not united. How have they tolerated such xenophobia since the last 40 years, you tell me, and nobody raised a voice? When I have raised a voice in West Bengal, I have been threatened by the KSU. You go to my YouTube channel, they have told me you cannot step foot in Shillong, we will finish you. How come the Bengalis did not raise a voice? Isn't it time that the Bengalis also should come together? Because they have faced it. They should raise a voice together. Well, if the government isn't listening, why don't you send your groups? Send them to the central government. Send a delegation. Send a
Um,
representative group who should go to Shillong and talk to these people. How
I'm
could the
sorry,
Sikhs
ma'am, but
send?
ma'am, if you, as a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, a party which is in the center, on whose YouTube channel somebody raises this and says, "You come here and we'll finish you," why isn't the police acting on those users? Because if you're logging into YouTube and you're, threatening somebody, then those people can easily be tracked. Why isn't
Yes,
action being taken? What's missing?
because I
Is
haven't
what
complained yet. I haven't complained yet. I am just waiting to see how far can they go. And then I will take my action. I will. I'm not going to spare these people like they were spared in the last 40 years. Because see, if you want to live in peace, fine, live in peace, but let the Bengalis also live in peace. You cannot torture them for 40 years and you can just cannot say that nothing happened. A lot of things have happened. Those young boys, what happened with them? Those who were playing basketball during the lockdown period, why were they beaten up? Just because they speak the Bengali language?
you know
Why were
we've
they
done
beaten up so brutally?
I'm with you, ma'am, and I think Patricia's post was around that on Facebook, and she tagged the
Yes.
chief minister on it. Now, there have been, for years now, we've been fighting for the rights of the Northeastern people when they come to states and cities. In fact, Delhi is a big challenge area for the people who come from the Northeast. The women are treated poorly. There has been a lot of violence against them. We've stood up and fought for it. It doesn't matter where you come from, in whichever land you live in, as long as you're a human being of this earth, wherever you may be, and you're legally there, then you have a right to be there. We, as journalists, will continue standing up and fighting for it. We will be honest around the idea. Stop any transgression of people. Stop targeting people, because that's not the way forward. That's not how good civilized societies are. So the government of India needs to take action. This is an emergency. This is a situation where an emergency should be imposed. If people are targeting other people based on their ethnicity, people based on their language, race, then there is a genuine problem at hand. Northeast, certainly very much part of India, so there is no reason for anybody from India to get targeted there, and vice versa. When people come from the Northeast into the rest of India, it's no foreign land for them. This is their home as well, as much as any other place in this country. So we are hoping that the government of India will now take action and at least stop this illegal targeting of activists who raise their voice talking about this non-tribal targeting. Thank you for watching. Good night and good luck.